Next up, Galactus.
Next up, Overwatch League.
But gates opening and both teams on a 3-3, but Xavier are going to be starting off on the Sombra. This is something they've run for the last couple of weeks, and Cyclone Coupling are actually not running anything in particular.
They've actually got a new Zarya player in at Lee Chung soon, I believe. So not someone that we actually saw on the roster as it
So
came
everything
up.
we were talking about main tanks and finally stabilizing out the window.
So Shell's not playing.
They've recast the main tank role.
Yeah. It's
And
different
they're rebooting the Cyclone Coupling universe.
They've rebooted about 5 times this season, minimum.
Several times. Personally, I prefer the Sam Raimi Cyclone Coupling.
I didn't want to be, too opinionated about it, but I like the first version. I like the original.
Yeah, Sam Raimi was that was
First
a great Spider-Man trilogy.
I'm talking about the week 1 Cyclone
right.
Coupling, but also
that was with Yang Yang still.
That was the one with Yang Yang, who's now on BTRG in China, or it could be another team, but yeah. He's out there.
I was trying to figure out a way to
doing
imply
all right.
that Yang Yang was Spider-Man, but I couldn't quite tie that one in together well enough. Couldn't quite web that one up.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. God, aren't we
Same
just a
Spidey
bunch
sense.
of dads?
Actually, this does make me think. Maybe Shao is meant to be playing, and this is maybe if he's the one that can't get in for whatever reason, that this may be a substitution for him. But that wouldn't surprise me too much either. But it does throw another span in the works. It's like, okay, well now what do you expect from Cyclone Coupling? Because every week the expectations somewhat maybe shift a little bit. Some weeks more than others.
Yeah.
But right now it's like, okay, we are maybe changing one player every week, but at least we've seen most of them for a while now. We've never seen Lee Chung-soon before. This could be, anything could really happen.
Yeah, and if they do win, then they can look Xavier in the eye and say, this isn't even my final form.
And then also after that say, I don't know what my final form is.
Yeah, not even I know what my final. I mean, actually, this might be
I
my
actually
final
don't know
form.
how many
Frankly,
forms are remaining.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
Could be
That's
a
the
lot,
thing that's
could be
always
none.
impressed me about like literally any character in Dragon Ball Z when they're like, I'm going to make another transformation. It's like, do they even know when it ends, or do they just keep going?
It's like when a butterfly, you just keep going, just back to the cocoon,
I have a
back
very
out in the back of the cocoon again.
Yeah. Comes out even better than before. I have a very vivid memory of there being a Dragon Ball Z episode literally titled "Another Transformation!" ! It's like it was self-aware. Like, really? Like, what? And then after all that was done,
they do is dye
they
their hair,
finally
so,
beat
I mean-
Frieza, and they're like, you know what? Let's just do that again. Cooler arc. I can't believe we gave Dragon Ball Z such a free pass.
It's just like when, by the way, condolences to this card, but in Hearthstone, it's that evolve card you can just play over and over again. You just, one mana echo. I can't remember.
I know the one. This isn't even my final form. Neither is this. Neither is this. Neither until you run out of mana. That one's your final form. You've got a lot of leeway to go. We do still have a pause out here, by the way, so you're going to have to continue listening to us make various pop culture references.
What you saw just then was the first in-game trailer. Now you got to wait again.
Yep. You got a teaser for this match, and now you got to wait for the first main trailer, and then that's not even the like full trailer.
Like just like you saw there was a new Cyclone Coupling member, you're sort of wondering like, what happened there? You're just wondering like, why is Robert Downey Jr. by himself in space? What happened there?
How crazy would it be, by the way? Because like when we all watched Infinity War, like we even though they changed it from being like, oh well, part 1 and part 2, like even though they changed it from that, we still knew that it wasn't going to be the last one. Like we knew there was going to be another Avengers after that was like related. So when everyone, if you haven't watched it now, I don't care. This is spoilers, whatever. You're in the wrong here. When everyone turns to dust, you're like, okay, this is gonna get resolved somewhere in the next film. What if we all go and watch Endgame? And there's actually a third one. Like, it's actually like a Thanos trilogy. That would be genuinely huge. It would also piss a lot of people off, I imagine. You get to the end of that, actually they lose again, and another half of them turn to dust.
Ooh, how many halves are left? I mean, I'm losing track of halves here. Like, how many halves?
But again, it approaches 0, but it can never reach 0 if you're always halving.
Because you're always halving.
So eventually, there will always. It's just going to come down to one Avenger left. It's just going to be Robert Downey Jr. just squaring up against Thanos again. Only this time, I guess he'd win. That's how. What if they just don't? What if they just never win? Thanos just keeps winning, and then they just end the Avengers. Just MCU just finishes there. Oh, Thanos actually won. Heroes are a lie. Welcome to adulthood.
I just thought it was really convenient that more than half the stones were on Earth. It's like, oh, that's nice. They were just already all here.
Well, yeah, that was the whole thing. Like, they spent like 15 films setting that up.
But half of them were just there anyway. It was just like, oh, they were just like, scattered across the universe, but somehow all made it to one place.
Yeah. It's called a plot.
Ridiculous. Unreal. Unreal.
It's like watching
That's
Monty
the part I
Python
don't
on the
like.
Holy Grail and going, well, all these cups end up in the same place. That's just ridiculous. And that even happened off screen. You literally watched like 15 whole films of the Infinity Stones mostly being unearthed and discovered. And then you watched Infinity War, and that's the thing that broke your suspension of disbelief. You're like, really? I mean, all of them? What are the odds? Like, well, exceedingly slim. The universe is a big place. That's why it's taken millennia for them to end up here.
Oh, but they just needed to all be in one place anyway.
Yeah, and then they were, and then Thanos won. I don't know how to... I mean, this is pretty simple plot. Certainly not the most outlandish thing in a movie in recent years.
I mean, I enjoy certain things that you don't.
What you actually wanted, you actually wanted to watch an entire movie that was Thanos getting 5 of the stones,
yeah,
but being unable to find the last one. And
it's that kind of adventure movie where he just sort of, it's almost like a kid's movie. We're just going around.
The real Infinity Stones was the friends he made along the way.
I see. The Friend Stone. Where was that one?
Friend Stone, yeah. Where's the Friendship Stone?
That's why he's so nasty, because he doesn't have the friendship. If you had that one, he'd be very friendly.
All that power and mind and, oh gosh. Well, it does appear that we are no longer paused. That will mean we're getting into game, and I do believe the game may have been remade. I don't believe we were on Gardens before. So,
in a different universe we were.
Yeah. So we have officially rebooted this universe. But you can see, of course, Lee Chang-soon in, right now, over Xiaoji on Cyclone coupling. And right now, both teams... Actually, this may be Lee Chang-soon also coming out the gate on the Sombra. We'll have to wait and see.
It wouldn't surprise me, because Cyclone coupling, this has been their playstyle for the majority of the tournament. This has been basically their bread and butter. This is the horse they rode on. It will be the horse they ride to the playoffs with as well. So, not going to do anything too fancy here. Maybe you'll still see Jackie on the fire later, but THK on the Xavier side happy to match as well.
Yeah, the horse's name was Friday. So both out the gate, pretty stock standard. Just be square up on Gardens. Maybe a bit of earlier movement onto the point from Xavier.
Everything else is pretty matched up here. Both teams going to take the high ground approach first. Opening hack to come through. Queen does go down.
Yeah, and also the hack on Tay leaves him pretty vulnerable. Is going to go down immediately after. So Cyclone coupling already off to a good start. Now it's, will anyone from Xavier actually get out alive? So far it does appear that 3 of their members will.
And the early isolation as well on the main tank. Such a big deal to get Xavier off the point. This should now be a pretty quick cap for them. Now taking stock of some of the ultimate charges. It's GCGG that's kind of riding away with this one at the moment, but so is THK.
I think that's the real threat. THK leading out Lee Chang-soon. I mean, all these other ultimates notwithstanding, that EMP could be what swings a fight for you. So if they can keep that lead and eventually pivot into an EMP, they could win a fight here easily.
And also Xavier's now repushed fairly quickly as well. Got a few low members at the Cyclone coupling side.
Just trying to get the pressure on. Hack on Eternal. Doesn't quite touch anything, but a stun on Jackie finishes him off, and suddenly Xavier starting to put the pressure down. Trade back though onto Thittercorn is really going to hamper Xavier here. GHK, 88%, 90% now. Still just looking for that EMP. Actually has it available now.
And this is where the Transcendence is so important. Sombra does have the EMP. THK looking for it.
Ooh. Yeah, actually commits it a little bit earlier, but still that is good use there. But at any rate, it's going to be well and truly enough for Cyclone coupling to steer clear of that one and finish off Xavier. And that was with Lee Chang-soon now pivoting into his EMP.
And just a race between 2 of the members there. GCGG just managing to get that Transcendence in time. Fallen did use an Earth Shatter as well to set things up. And now the table turns just a little bit. Cyclone coupling after winning that one gets to save the EMP for the next fight and maybe snowball further. Looking at the Xavier supports now.
Ooh, very preemptive EMP there. Gets 5 members. Haven't actually finished anyone off yet. It might have been maybe a little bit too overzealous. Now Grab to come out in countenance to this all as Lee Chang-soon gets dropped, so does Fallen. And Cyclone coupling, their plan there was maybe just a little bit too cute. And Xavier, it didn't really end up costing them anything. They didn't get hurt by that EMP.
And there's 2 problems here. There's 2 things you have to think about, because one is they could have saved it for later, let Xavier push on top of the point and probably had a better engage, but then both supports and Xavier would have their ultimates available to counter. If they go before the ultimates are available, which is what happened, they unfortunately have to commit the EMP in a much more awkward place where it's more difficult for team members to actually get on top of.
And Now you see THK again starting to get close to another EMP. Xavier need to make sure they keep boots on the ground here. Oh, that grab is kind of out in the middle of nowhere. Eternal and Fallen also on their backs. Means Sound Barrier going to come out here. There we go. Tay going to commit the same. Xavier just kind of steering clear for now. That is going to help deal with that EMP on Cyclone coupling that did connect. So Queen finding the first casualty in this fight as both of these teams having thrown a lot of ultimates into the mix. Late Graviton Surge rather, and no follow-up ability on it. A little bit rough there, but Cyclone coupling going to steer through that fight.
Just read that situation a little bit too incorrectly, unfortunately for Xavier. Thought they maybe could have turned it around, and the possibility was available, but now we're back into Cyclone coupling, nearing the 90% mark for that actual objective. And it's Lee Chang-Soo with the next EMP ready to go, which could end this game.
And look at that, onto 5 again, getting very aggressive with it, but this time following it up with an Earth Shatter means they're going to have no trouble actually finishing those members off. Already half of them dead before the overtime even begins. The rest are going to have a really hard time contesting this point. They are just going to get some boots on the ground from THK, who immediately drops. Tay won't even get boots or indeed rollerblades on the ground. Cyclone coupling will pick up Gardens.
100 to 45, still fairly competitive from the Xavier side of things, but a couple of mistakes there, a couple of fights they actually won where a little bit unexpected for them to actually be able to win. Notably, it was that second one where we did see the EMP come through, just as Tay and Thittercorn had not gotten their ultimates quite yet. That was probably a fight you expected Cyclone coupling to win. So off the back of some of their own mistakes, but then also evening that out with maybe some mistakes on the Cyclone coupling side that they took advantage of, still wasn't quite enough though. You do have to start wondering if Cyclone coupling kind of fixes their side up a bit, what opportunities are then still available for Xavier?
They already kind of have in a sense, because you look at how that second EMP engage in a similar space happened, and it was much better execution from Cyclone coupling. So now, this time not actually going to even run the Sombra out the gate as we come into University.
And I think that's probably the smart decision here. THK going to stay on, but he'll probably soon find it's very difficult to get good position here as a Sombra and Cyclone coupling pushing in early.
Yeah, I like this very aggressive movement here. It just says to Xavier, you are going to have to force us off here. You have to attack. You have to find a way in.
We'll see how THK wants to approach this one. So far, he does have the high ground and does have a kill.
Yeah, Jackie getting caught there, unfortunately, for Cyclone coupling is that opening. Now Fallen can live up to his namesake. That means Xavier are going to very succinctly force Cyclone coupling off this point. Good early positioning from Cyclone coupling, but not actually able to follow it up.
And good patience there from Xavier as well. You can see the way they're receiving the aggression from Cyclone coupling, backing up, allowing them to take positioning on the point. Still having THK on a flank, who does get a hack onto Eternal, then pushing up to get the kill onto Jackie as the point unlocks to make sure that Xavier get the first cap.
Now Xavier got the right ultimates coming up on rotation. Cyclone coupling, the one's actually a little bit behind the 8-ball here, so we'll have to see how they choose to approach this fight.
So to at least have a good counter there, but they need to keep their members alive, and that's not happening.
That's a free fight as well. The only ultimate used there was the rally from SQX, which you kind of just want to use before the fight anyway. That's a really huge win for Xavier.
And this is where for Cyclone coupling, yes, maybe you have a world where GCGG does use the Transcendence, but also at the same time, he won't have it for later when Xavier do actually commit some of these big important ultimates that they are definitely now looking to use for this fight.
That's the thing, they've got all of the chips all on Cyclone coupling here, so and the dip, sure. EMP is going to be the first one, so GCGG has the response in the form of the Transcendence that they have been able to save, so Xavier looking to rotate into something else now, quite possibly a grab. Actually, Shatter first, goes into Fallen Shield, now it's going to be the grab, but that's a really tricky angle. They are still able to get Red Fox though,
that's
and the counter Shatter from Fallen wasn't too huge. It's still favorable right now for Xavier. They have the better end of all of these trades. In fact, they're the only casualty on their side so far as they start to mop up the rest of Cyclone coupling.
And that's an unfortunate reset for Cyclone coupling as well, because we're getting really close now to overtime. If Red Fox actually survives, you do see a sound barrier, but here comes that grab.
Yeah, that was a really interesting one. Maybe a bit of an overextension from Xavier. They did lose THK, but they have still a Transcendence here on the side of Thittercorn if things get really hairy. And Cyclone coupling don't actually have anything left after that grab being used.
And that's the problem, because now Xavier get to regroup and they're still on the cap. We are going to 99, but Cyclone coupling, they need something.
And they've got THK back by now anyway, who's about to have that EMP still. So there's an early Transcendence from GCGG matched by Thitticorn, and it's still Xavier picking up the kills here. Cyclone Coupling not really making any headway. Now Queen going to finish things off with a nice stylish Earth Shatter. No resistance left on the point for Cyclone Coupling with Red Fox now down. Overtime will tick away. 100-0 shutout on University for Xavier.
And that was pretty clean macro from the start to finish, by the way, as well. But you see Xavier, that first engage where they just, again, give the space away before the point unlocks, knowing that once they get a hack in, once they're ready to push in as the point's open, they can win and take that first cap. And then that second fight was probably what really turned things around, where they didn't really have to spend any ultimates, just a rally, and got Cyclone Coupling entirely cleaned up. And then every fight from there was fairly clean. Cyclone Coupling kind of not being as patient as they could have been, using grabs kind of awkwardly, charging up to the point, but then not having enough ultimates to use after that. After reinforcements for Xavier already arrive, it's a little bit of a disaster on their end that needs to be cleaned up now for City Center.
Shu kind of looks like it's on the other foot here. It has been Xavier often struggling to get mileage out of ultimates. This time it's Cyclone Coupling. But that was only on University. This is two very, I mean, different but actually mirrored team comps. We've both got quad DPS.
And we felt like this could happen because both teams do want to play a large number of DPS if possible. It's Patapan on the Tracer as well, something we don't see him often on, but he's got a pretty wide hero pool.
Thing is, Jeky's Farah is a very known quantity here, and I think it's going to be a lot for Thitticorn to measure up to. Nice shot onto THK.
knows it.
That's brilliant. Thitticorn now goes down as well in the skies. So Cyclone Coupling are just happy to lean into the prowess of some of these DPS players, mostly Jeky. And look at that, a third one for him in this fight.
He is a bird of prey in Xavier right now. Rabbits in a field, unfortunately. They need to do something about him, a quick snap. SQX maybe needs to start firing some shots above. They need something to happen. They maybe need a soldier to be in this composition instead. Maybe they need a possible McCree or Widowmaker, because unless Thitticorn can really match Cheeky, which doesn't look like it'll happen.
Oh, that's an opening. Let's also mention, though, Eternal very much leading in ult charge. Now THK down, so 1 for 1 so far. Fallen hacked, he will drop down. Nice follow up there. Now Eternal getting a little bit harassed, close to EMP. Not quite there yet, as the races start to come through.
Cap's still very much in favor of Cyclone Coupling, and as both teams have the res available, full strength on both sides as well. Looking for Rocket Barrage soon.
Oh, does get traded back as THK really starts to open things up. Catching Lee Jae Gon is nice as well. Sorry, Lee Chang Soon, words are hard. Patapan nice onto Fallen as well, and it looks like Xavier just starting to frag out here. Patapan really wanting to put the team on his back here.
And don't worry, Lee Jae Gon will be at the showdown. Don't you worry about that one. But the Cyclone Coupling, look, they got ultimates. They got stuff to play with right now. Both teams indeed have the EMP. Importantly, 47% is a decent start. Typically, you could probably hold in City Center a bit longer. This is very aggressive.
Yeah, maybe a bit too aggressive. They do still pick up Lee Chang Soon and Red Fox. Those are your ideal picks there. They are happy for Queen to go down to the counter trade because they've still got all that DPS power. Patapan gets another one, catching the back end of GCGG. Now looking to try and get the Sombra, forces the recall, picks up Eternal as well, and Patapan is absolutely on fire here.
We have all 6 available now. Res onto Thitticorn as well. This is where Xavier need to make up a lot of lost ground. Preferably, they'd like to really push this one towards that overtime. And for Cyclone Coupling, EMP's gone, so they got to work on these other ultimates. You have to see if the Rocket Barrage can give you some dividends here.
GCGG nearly got 1 clipped there. That was alarmingly close for the guy, I would say. And I mean, Patapan is just such a threat right now onto any of these members. Jeky loses the dogfight. They're going to go ahead and commit in onto the point. That's a reasonable barrage, but not quite getting enough. Patapan does find Red Fox, but it does look like this one's going the way of Xavier.
And Cyclone Coupling actually kind of come out ahead there. If you look at who actually went down and came up, Jeky going down here is a bit of a problem, but Cyclone Coupling still have great numbers.
Yeah, when I said looking good for Xavier, I actually meant Cyclone Coupling, so just pretend I said that.
Yeah. Hey, in the alternate universe, anything can happen.
Yep, in the previous game that we had to leave and remake this one, I called that fight correctly.
Right now, though, for Cyclone Coupling, back on the train, 60%, just got to make up that small difference. Jeky looking healthy, at least for the time being, has to start watching out for his life because he's
Queen.
kind of the main character here.
Oh, brilliant stick there from GCGG to confirm that kill onto Queen before he can slip away. Patapan's still trying to keep the pressure up, but not actually quite finishing off these kills. But hack on GCGG does make things a little bit trickier. Eternal's kind of playing point guard for that one, though, in this brawl, and that means THK is going to suffer. Xavier kind of need to reset here. They can't keep scrapping.
And Tay's on such low HP. This is where Cyclone Coupling can really push in because Tay can't fight. And that means no healer. And as Tay gets his life back, as well, as had a member go down, The points now ticking up 90% plus. Cyclone Coupling haven't really used too many ultimates. Looking pretty good.
They get one last shot here, and it's all coming up green for Xavier right now, but they need to actually make these ultimates stick. SQX vulnerable while he's channeling that ultimate, and that means Jackie takes the shot and lands it, finds his mark true. Jackie also surviving for an exceedingly long time, but Xavier are still in this between THK and Patapan. There is still so much prowess. Hack on to Red Fox, they will finish that one off, and suddenly Xavier have that extra bit of staying power in the fight, are going to be able to get these last few members down.
And this is where you see THK focusing his EMP specifically onto Jackie if possible, removing him from the fight, knowing that he's probably the biggest threat here. With the Rocket Barrage, you say it's true, and then focusing effort onto Red Fox after that, removing the chance to get a resurrection. Xavier are still in this game. They need to make sure they have the staying power now with the rest of their ults or what they can charge in the meantime, because this will be the final fight.
Yeah, last fight territory. I do like the Roadhog pickup here. If that can catch one person, that might be all they need. Lee Chung Soon taking pain. Jackie down. SQX finds his mark. And look at that. They finish off Lee Chung Soon. They are absolutely destroying Cyclone Coupling in this fight, who are really struggling to get the kills. With Red Fox down as well, it's looking super dire. Even Eternal getting finished off. And I think that's really the last gasp for Cyclone Coupling on that point. They did flip it back over partway through the fight, but it's immediately going to go back now the way of Xavier, who themselves are still at 99% with the members alive, with the presence on the point, and they are going to start off winning Oasis.
2-1 as well. Cyclone Coupling, you felt like definitely the stronger team on paper moving into the match. But as it would turn out, at least for the first map here, Xavier are definitely here to play. Xavier are definitely here to compete. And we're in a world now where even if Xavier still lose this match somehow, but it's close, it's this close.
Yeah.
You got to look at the quarterfinals and say, I think they might be able to take that one. So Xavier in a very comfortable place.
I think that the thing that was most impressive about that as well is you've got to actually look at where they won. They won when both teams were playing the very DPS heavy compositions. That's something we're likely to see more of on the new patch. Also, they won when they were playing the Sombra against the standard 3-3, which actually means that might not be an option here for Cyclone Coupling. For all their flexibility, they might actually have to have Sombra 3-3 be their baseline instead of regular 3-3.
And the thing is, they are putting their new player on the lineup for the Sombra position, which is very difficult. It's a very high communication, high team play, high teamwork position to sort of be in. And that's not one that you really want to have a new person on. You want someone that's a little bit more seasoned that you've been playing with, which is why Shao has been fantastic because he's been with the team now for several weeks in a row, really understand how the team wants to play. But you also have the fact that Cyclone Coupling is a Chinese team. That's one language you've got to deal with. Lee Chang-soon's a Korean player. That's something else they now have to climb over as a hurdle.
Yeah.
Talon have done it, but it takes like 6-7 weeks to get there.
Yeah, it's not easy.
Cyclone Coupling don't have that kind of time to work with.
Exactly. I think that's a very real factor here. And you probably see that also coming into effect somewhat on that last map there on City Center, where they both got that mirror matchup. Because the thing with quad DPS, it is in itself, as we always say, quite volatile. It either blows up in your face or it blows up in the enemy's face. But when you've got both teams running that, fights really change on a dime. The right person gets a one clip on the right opponent and suddenly things totally change. But if you can't communicate that super cleanly, you could end up backing out when you shouldn't or committing when you shouldn't.
We now see Xavier landing that first knockdown punch onto Cyclone Coupling, but now as they get back on their feet, let's see how they respond. The next game mode will be on hybrids. Let's go ahead and find out how that works.
Welcome to Eichenwald. This is hybrid. Two teams face off as either defenders or attackers. The attacking team has a limited amount of time to first capture a payload and then escort it along a set path containing 2 checkpoints. To capture the payload, the attackers need to stand within its range for a set amount of time. Defenders can delay capture progress by also standing in range. The attackers must work together to clear away the defenders. If successful, they score 1 point and gain additional time on the clock. The payload only moves forward when an attacker stands near it. Defenders can delay the payload's movement by standing nearby. To get moving again, the attackers must clear away the defenders by force. If even one attacker is capturing the objective or on the payload when the time runs out, the game enters overtime. This extends play indefinitely until the attackers are either cleared away or they gain more time by reaching a checkpoint. Every time the payload reaches a checkpoint, the attackers score 1 point and gain additional time on the clock. The round ends when the payload reaches the destination or when time runs out. teams switch sides each round. Whichever team scores the most points and escorts the payload farthest wins.
So here we are now, hybrid map of the week, Eichenwalde. And Xavier off to the best possible start that they would have liked here. Momentum is important as well. Very likely that you can go up to a 2-0 start. We see a lot of those here. And so for Cyclone Coupling, it's strange territory.
And you'd also be pretty pleased with that as Xavier coming into Eichenwalde specifically, where some of those DPS-heavy compositions are still options for you.
And I think when you look at those kind of matchups, especially when it's a sort of a mirror here, you know, we go back to 2-2-2 or more DPSs, triple or quad, it comes down to individual playmaking more often than not. And what you do see a lot of is the fact that Xavier had a lot of that individual playmaking up their sleeve.
What you do also see here, substitution for Cyclone Coupling. Xiaojie is back in the mix. Li Chang-soon, obviously back on the bench. Not sure exactly what's happened all there, but hey, Cyclone Coupling situation normal, and they'll be happy to have Xiaojie back in on that Sombra as well.
And I think this is where now Xavier have to look at this matchup and think, you know, possibly it gets a little bit more difficult. This has been the Cyclone Coupling team that has found more recent success. They've been more comfortable running. So I think for Cyclone Coupling as well now, getting into and shifting into that next gear.
Xavier, actually, THK has swapped over onto the Diva here, so they actually want to run 3-3 into this. They will be aware that there is a Sombra by now, and THK, with that Orb of Discord, nearly got DMAX there.
Now we see a decent amount where some teams will like to go into the Ana for the defense or go into the Ana versus the Sombra matchup because there is no Diva available. However, we also do know this means you don't have Transcendence against the EMP.
It can be a little bit volatile. If you land the right sleeps the right times, though, it can really pay off. Big Fallen eating some real hurt. That biotic grenade on him. Now just look at that. The damage becomes overwhelming. And even with that hack on Thetacorn, unfortunately, Xiaojie's actually getting left in the dust here as Xavier barrels forward. Early Transcendence, though, from GCGG, but he can't help those members with the anti-heal on them out from Thetacorn, so they're still going to pick up these members, and Cyclone Coupling not really going to keep Xavier off this point for all that long.
And it's a battle of flick supports as well. Thetacorn also got a nano boost super early, and as soon as the Transcendence is available, what you think, okay, this is time now to rush with the support ultimate. There is that triple land on the bio name from Thetacorn as well, which really just secures that game plan for Xavier.
Xiaojie is close here to an EMP, but not quite close enough, and with that space, Xavier are happy to commit some ultimates, get some kills. Losing Queen was a bit of a tough break, though, and this does give Cyclone Coupling an opening, especially with Xiaojie finding Tay on the side.
And now this is where Cyclone Coupling trying to find a little bit more positioning. EMP available is a big deal, especially when there's no good defense. This should be where Cyclone Coupling are at their strongest. Sound barrier is so far away right now, and Xavier need to be careful.
This is a little bit dicey, but if Xavier can survive this, they're in pretty good standing. There it is, going to come across a lot of these members. Queen very quick to go down. Xavier immediately into full retreat. We'll lose Patapan as well. Question is, will they lose anything else? And the answer is looking like a no.
And this is now Cyclone Coupling kind of holding position quite early on this B point. And since they lost A so early, that's super important for them, protecting select members as well. Graviton Surge available, Earthshatter soon, spawn camping as long as they like, until Xavier ready to actually move out with this nano boost.
Grav going to come out here from Eternal, very preemptive, and honestly, they're having a hard time finishing these members off in a confined space, because that's where Thetacorn shines. The counter shatter plus the damage in on the nano boost of that Reinhardt. I mean, there's so much. Cyclone Coupling, I think we're a little foolish to take that fight.
I think Cyclone Coupling as well, just maybe a little bit too overeager. Like you mentioned, foolish is one word to describe it, but impatient is probably the one I would use in this case. They could have just allowed Xavier to push out a little bit further, catch them all as they come out of the choke, but because you put it in the choke, you also have to fight in that same choke point. And like you mentioned, Thetacorn, if he throws a bio grenade out, which is what happened, he gets that extra healing on his teammates and they all survive.
As the thing is, not that hard for them to survive that one, and look at this, a real kind of reversal of positioning here. This is a little uncomfortable for Cyclone Coupling. They're the ones who actually have to try and take possession of the card. The Earth Shatter,
Four-man.
Not completely blocked out, but the EMP, big connection. Can they finish up? They do find Patapan and Queen, and that's going to be all she wrote. The SQX going down is just kind of a bonus. And now because of those reversed positions, Cyclone Coupling can get an easy cleanup. A little bit risky, though, one must say.
So the timing here is a little unfortunate for Cyclone Coupling because there's still 3 minutes remaining, and you'd want to be at this place with the SCART positioning. If we were closer to the overtime, that's where you can really start to get into that respawn advantage, which technically still does exist, but Xavier have a lot of time to reset. Xavier have a lot of opportunities to get the card across the point, and Cyclone Coupling needs some more ultimate soon.
And they've still got a decently sized window before that EMP is back up. Zhao is channeling it and charging it up with record speed there. That's absolutely huge. I mean, the grab, the biotic grenade, it's everything you want it to be, and it means that that Transcendence from GCGG is just that much less effective. Xavier, very clean execution. They're taking that window, charging through it, and they're going to cap the point.
And this is where Xavier just say they're going to double down on the Ana. They're saying we don't care about the Sombra, we don't care about the EMP if we're winning in every other situation, which is basically what has been happening. Cyclone Coupling win when there's EMP, Xavier win when there's no EMP, and Xavier are the ones pushing on C.
That's the thing, Xavier are making ground in that space after they win fights, and Cyclone Coupling need to do something about that. They need to get fights after forcing Xavier off the card. That is a huge EMP. That should be a pretty clean pickup there with Fallen getting the Earth Shatter on a lot of members as well. Very easy fight win for Cyclone Coupling. Like I said, though, the real tell is going to be whether they can actually get a subsequent win after this fight.
And the problem here becomes the Graviton Surge from Eternal. Once that actually lands, time and time again, we've actually seen Cyclone Coupling unable to finish off members while the grab is out. A Bionade comes through, Third ends up healing everybody, and then Xavier survives. So Cyclone Coupling need a lot of damage output. They need to play very aggressively with the grab to actually pay dividends.
Well, part of it as well is one of the ways you want to follow up on the grab is with Fallen, and that leaves him vulnerable to things like sleeps and biotic grenades. Case in point. Trying to get charged in once again. They haven't got anything out from that first Graviton Surge. Now it's going to be Xavier's turn to respond, but Queen goes down just before the sound barrier from Tay. So actually Xavier are backing up right now.
And this is where Fallen, the good news is he does charge up an Earth Shatter. So maybe part B of that plan is if we don't finish them off with that Graviton Surge, we get enough damage in with the Rhine that we can maybe then finish off the Earth Shatter. We're also in a stage where Shell's no longer playing the Sombra, it's actually on the D.Va. So if the defense matrix can really get a lot of value against Thittercorn, he will be forced to change off of Ana.
And that'll probably be the real big swing point here. I like this change from Cyclone Coupling. Even with good EMPs, the Sombra wasn't doing enough for them, but oh, nice knock on for Queen there, or getting Queen on his back rather with that Nano Boost on him. But now the grab still up from Patapan just on the back end of some of that ultimate time on the Nano Boost. So they've still got good damage, but Transcendence from GCG keeping this team well and truly in the fight here. Fallen staying alive is able to pick up some kills later on in the passage of things. That means Xavier are fully getting held off now. Cyclone have finally started to get those back-to-back wins.
And this is that extra sustain that Cyclone Coupling have that Xavier do not have. They have a sound barrier. Red Fox uses it. Then you have the Transcendence afterwards. What does Xavier use after the sound barrier? They got nothing. They've already had the Nano on Queen. Queen goes on his back because the counter shatter from Fallen was much better. Thittercorn now seeing the results of this is going to go onto Zen. Fresh character, no ultimate available, and 130 remaining on the clock.
Man, Fallen is playing this one very down to the wire, but that's a really nice placement on the grab. Forces some members out. And even with Xavier picking up a couple of kills here, it's actually a bit tricky for them to push forward because all their supports are dead, and Cyclone Coupling have pretty close respawns here, but late kill on Eternal might just be enough for Xavier to make some space.
So this is where now Cyclone Coupling just want to waste that time away, and they are going to get that full respawn, force that next fight pretty quick smart as well. Relying here on a Shadow if available, Xavier technically have more ultimates, so they should be the ones to push the trigger.
I like this grab just before GCGG can get himself a Transcendence, and the self-destruct finds Fallen, but immediately traded back against Queen. He dies so often, even with that Earth Shatter available. It's really costing Xavier a lot, but they're still in this fight right now. GCGG Transcendence is just running out, so can they stick in this? Closer respawns for Cyclone Coupling, but nice catch on Shao.
Xavier need more Pixie. They need Queen back into action, such that he can then get that Earth Shatter down, and Fallen needs to be a target here. Transcendence in play.
Yeah, nice timing. It allows Xavier to keep up the pressure, and this is as Queen comes back in. Oh, Earth Shatter maybe a little bit too quick on the trigger finger on that one, but they still find Fallen. Patapan does get traded back, but Xavier have maintained his numbers advantage.
15 seconds.
Keeping the pressure on to Cyclone Coupling, who are really, at best, just trying to run this down to overtime here. Maybe even force Xavier off after that point. Self-destruct won't find anything. Let's see if Shao can get Bennett. No, he cannot. It's only THK out of the mech. Grab coming in onto the members of Xavier. They've got one of their own, but they're not going to get a chance to use it. And it's not just going to be forcing the cap in overtime. It's actually going to be holding Xavier off just shy of completing the map.
And now you're seeing the small margins here in play as well. Fallen went down super early at the start of that engagement. But then because Queen also goes down, he doesn't get to use that Earth Shatter when he wants to. The perfect time would have been as soon as Fallen goes down. There's no big shield in your way. You land that Shatter. Maybe you die anyway, but at least your team gets to kill everyone else and still win.
So this is the really brilliant fight just ahead of the B cap. And I mean, you see what that biotic grenade can do there. That caught both the main tanks there, or both the big tanks plus Jackie. So, I mean, they died so incredibly fast.
And it took a while for Cyclone Coupling to maybe consider, okay, now the Sombra isn't working. And that's a difficult decision to make because, as was mentioned, there are a decent number of advantages here, and we've looked at this from the other point of view, and we've seen Annas come through, notably from Jupiter, where Sabagot is a very good Anna himself, but up against, some very good teams out there, that hasn't always been the answer. In fact, Sombra, most teams running a Sombra into an Anna have been successful. This is one of the few times we've actually seen the team going with the Anna be the more successful team instead of the Sombra.
So now on the defense, Xavier end up kind of having a bit of work cut out for them here. They didn't quite finish that cap, and that does mean if they want to take the win, they have to find some points to close up, stop up rather Cyclone coupling. Here was that Earth Shatter, by the way, just a bit too far away, really.
Yeah, he maybe thought, okay, Fallen's off to the side here, if I can catch somebody underneath the cart, but actually
too quick on the trigger finger.
Everyone else was much further back, and I think if they were patient there, and that's been one of the key things. I think both teams have had points where they have been very good with the patience and other points where they've been very poor, and this is unfortunately a case where they have been poor.
So now once again, Cyclone coupling going to start things off with a Sombra. And this is Thittercorn out on the Zenyatta, so they don't want to start things on the Ana.
Well, that's because they haven't predicted that there was going to be the Sombra coming through. This is the attacker's advantage here, because if there was an Ana, Shao just goes onto the Diva and they have a better composition. So Xavier, unfortunately, just going to have to deal with what they have as Cyclone coupling set up for the flanks.
Long wrap around from Shao. Fallen goes down early. Cyclone coupling are going to have to readdress this one. Yeah, SQX finding Shao as well, and that turns out very fast for Cyclone coupling, who are going to get absolutely routed from here. That is 5 out of 6. Even Red Fox just barely makes it back.
I'll tell you how they could redress this right now is they probably should go on to Pharah, because Xavier do not have a good counter to that, and Jackie is one of, if not the best Pharah in the tournament at the moment, and that's something they can easily get past A with, but they want to make sure that they can do it on the sort of Sombra Goats variation, such that when they push them to B, they can also have some success. But part 1 needs to be completed first, and that's where the struggle is currently.
Xavier are happy to just lean into this right now. I said earlier, they are going to need to find some point to defend. The more time they can get off Cyclone on A, the better. That's going to be a decent Earth Shatter actually to stop the follow-up there on the grab, and all these members of Xavier are low. They haven't actually been able to get healed up. GCGG led Thittercorn an ultimate charge, and that ends up paying off massively. Thittercorn's Transcendence not even up as he dies, unfortunately, so that just really shows the game of inches there. Cyclone coupling just barely going to come out ahead.
And better yet, Shell has managed to save the EMP for that second point as well. And Cyclone coupling now looking to push through. Graviton Surge available, Sound Barrier available. Xavier have 5, so they will have appropriate counters for most of the offensive tools currently held by Cyclone coupling, and it will come down to how quickly can Xavier recontest and regroup.
Yeah, I really like this positioning from Cyclone coupling to that end. Very aggressive. It's really forcing Xavier to brawl their way back to the payload, and Cyclone coupling can just give up a little bit of ground. If things get dicey, they can really stall out Xavier, get some free push on the card.
And they were looking for that free push, and Cyclone coupling wanted to kind of maybe force a fight early, such that no one was going to be able to stop the card, but they just kind of had to back out super quick, and EMP catching 3.
That's nice placement from Thittercorn, but he doesn't quite save Queen, unfortunately, with the Transcendence. Xavier, a lot of other ultimates, but they're in a 5 versus 6 plus a hack on THK there. He's going to take a dive. Thittercorn gets picked off, so Cyclone coupling going to keep the push going for now.
It's just going to be a dry fight for Xavier, knowing, okay, we absorbed the EMP, we attempted to save members with the Transcendence. We're not going to throw too much extra in there. We still have a Sound Barrier for the next fight. We still have our very big tool. Padapan now looking at Graviton Surge. Thittercorn now onto Ana. This is the fight that Xavier really want to win.
Yeah, he's used Transcendence. He might as well swap now. They've had better success with the Ana against that Sombra. So now looking to push back in, grab out, looking to follow it up with a self-destruct. They need to get rid of that shield, though, from Fallen. They do manage to do so, and they pick up 2 for their trouble with that Xavier, forcing Cyclone heavily onto the back foot, indeed into full retreat now. Expensive fight for Xavier, but they have managed to force Cyclone coupling off the card.
Expensive, but incredibly necessary, because they need to be able to hold at this point on the B side, and they need to make sure that this is the kind of composition that they can get mileage out of. Once we go onto C, you might see Shao change onto a Diva. In fact, you might even see him do it now, but for the time being on B, you can play a lot of good Sombra. He's also close to EMP, and Xavier can get a lot of value out of Thittercorn while that's happening.
Shao coming back up on an EMP. That's going to be the big tool for Cyclone coupling here, so Xavier going to have to figure out how they want to respond. May actually just, if it connects well, they might just have to accept that this fight is a wash.
And I think they should know that there is no Sound Barrier from Tay, so they shouldn't feel any fear. There's obviously no ultimate available from Thittercorn or nothing really to stop that EMP. So if Cyclone Coupling just kind of push in there and land this one on 5.
Yep, they'll be happy to take that stun onto Queen to help finish him off as well. They throw in both of those ultimates, the Earth Shatter, the EMP. Nice, easy fight win for Cyclone Coupling, and Xavier are more than happy with that themselves. They knew that that probably wasn't going to be a winnable fight, so they're happy to have got 2 ultimates out of Cyclone Coupling for the trouble.
And I think, you know, in some cases you may think that would have been an overspend, but with the kind of time remaining, if they lose this one, they go down to 1 minute, they kind of reset the EMP pressure, and it might take them until overtime. So playing it safe, putting the Shatter in there as well, securing that B point going into C, maybe snowballing is very effective.
So now 3.5 minutes. Xavier are going to have to find some point to force Cyclone Coupling off the payload and dig the heels in there. Draw the line in the sand.
So look at this, just moving backwards. Queen does get a kill eventually, but the Nano was used, and for the most part, 1 kill off a Nano, not a big deal. Cyclone Coupling happy to just give this one away for now.
That being said, with the ultimates coming up on rotation for Xavier, they may just be happy to have forced Cyclone Coupling back for now, and they may just be looking more into what this next fight is going to yield them.
Well, it's just got to be 1 Nano absorbed at the moment anyway. Shell's looking for the next EMP. Grab is available, but Sound Barrier is not. That is a big deal here in Cyclone Coupling. Need to find value. Thittercorn though, where's that Bio-Grenade?
Yeah, there's that Transcendence to deal with the Grav. Pretty predictable, and Thittercorn's hacked out now as well, so can't Bio-Grenade as the members are stuck in Eternals. Grav, Cyclone Coupling going to get a lot more mileage. Really great target selection from Shao there.
Exactly. It's the adaptation that we've got to talk about, and you see Cyclone Coupling, they're thinking, how have we been losing the Graviton Surges? It's because of the Ana. So hack out the Ana, no Bio-Grenade, Grav is successful because there's no sound barrier. That's a push on to C concluded.
And Xavier had no way to really follow up on their own sound barrier, so just not able to get any kind of mileage out of these really big ultimates. Self-destruct just kind of dropped down from THK. It makes a bit of space, but it's not going to get any kills. So Xavier really need to figure out how they're going to make this work. Only 3 in that EMP and Earth Shatter, but it's still going to kill Queen in spite of the sound barrier, and now SQX. Now Tay in trouble, likely to go down. Going to have to commit a Nano boost here, I believe.
Gone.
Yeah, it's just not really Xavier's day right now with Cyclone Coupling looking to cruise through to the finish with plenty of time still left on the board.
That's what I call a Nano Boo instead, because it didn't really do too much for Xavier. And now just no opportunity to even defend that last push. Just excellent timing, excellent target selection from the side of Cyclone Coupling. They knew what they needed to do, and you also have to commend the fact that despite the defense being kind of rocky, they had a lot of places where, okay, Thittercorn's getting a lot of value right now. Go on to C, change onto the Diva. They still completely hold the C and stop the time bank from finishing. Cyclone Coupling at the end of the day, despite the struggle, very good win.
It was interesting as well. It does feel like Xavier, when they are actually playing well, when they're getting those wins, the macro game is quite slick. And then suddenly it just kind of won't be there, which is more or less what we saw in the defense. They never really got that old economy humming along nicely. They were spending most of their time in recovery against Cyclone's very efficient ultimate economy. Really, the only one they had going for them was that very first defense on point A. But then when it got to the fight immediately after that, Cyclone Coupling was still leading in ultimate charge despite losing the prior fight.
And I think as well, there was a couple of really important fights. The first one where they lost, but then when they came back for the second attempt and just kind of one-shot their way through that A defense, snowballed onto B with the EMP in hand as well. That was a very important one for Cyclone Coupling to sort of push on through. It got a little tricky when the Ana was brought out again, but then you see the adaptations moving along later on. Once Thittercorn starts getting hacked down and pressured more by Shell in particular, that's when Cyclone Coupling can then get on their groove once more. And that's where, unfortunately, for Xavier, didn't quite have the same adaptations. One thing worked, and then it stopped working, and they couldn't find the answer yet again. But they will still have more opportunities. We are going to take a bit of a break. But when we come back, we're going to go into maps 3 and 4 of this epic Week 7 match. So don't go anywhere.